Well, good afternoon. I want to welcome and thank these extraordinary leaders who are based in various states, but who are also national leaders, for coming together so we can have this conversation about, I think, one of the most challenging and troubling issues of the day. Last month, as we all know, actually just weeks ago, the Supreme Court of the United States did something that is, before then, was unthinkable and unprecedented, which is the United States Supreme Court took a constitutional right that had previously been recognized, took it from the women of America, and with great consequence, as we know. This is not a law school debate. This is not an intellectual discussion and debate. This is real in the way that it is currently and will impact the women and the girls of America in a very direct way. It goes without saying that I think we share a belief that women should be able to make decisions about their own bodies without interference from their government. That she should be able to make a decision about whether or not to have an abortion in the privacy of a safe place where she will make that decision, be it with her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her family, her physician, but not requiring permission from her government. So this is about that. This is also, for so many reasons that are integral to what is at stake, a healthcare crisis in America, I would offer. We have heard recent examples of what this means for a girl as young as 10 years old who endured an act of violence, I say as a former prosecutor who specialized in child sexual assault, and who then has to endure a system that clearly is not, in its current design with these laws in place, designed in a way that is about keeping her in mind in terms of what will give her a safe place in a way that she can address, and those around her who care about her can address her needs. When we look at this issue, we know that it affects our country at every level in each and every region. We also know that the federal government, we, our administration, recognizes the power and the importance and the responsibility we have to partner with elected leaders, local, state, and at the federal level. And so that's why I've asked you all to come and join us today so we can have a conversation about what's happening in your states. I do want to emphasize, though, back to the point of the 10-year-old girl that we've been hearing so much about. We have, I believe, 12 states in our country that right now will not even allow an exception in their ban on abortion, will not even allow an exception for rape or incest. We have in our country states that are criminalizing healthcare professionals for doing what they believe is in the best interest and the public health interest of their community. And so again, we take these issues quite seriously, understanding the ramifications and the injustice that is playing out associated with this issue. So I also believe that this is just the beginning. Most of us have read the opinion and the concurring opinion. As I've said before, Justice Thomas said the quiet part out loud, which is that also at risk is the right for individuals to make the most intimate decisions that they can make about what I call heart and home when it comes to issues like contraception, same-sex marriage. And so there is a lot at stake. We cannot wait for Congress to act. Congress must act. But also we cannot wait for Congress to act, which is why the President, Joe Biden, this morning, earlier today, issued executive orders around what we will do at the federal level to ensure that women are not impeded in terms of their right to interstate travel, and also that they will have access to the medication that they need, which, by the way, the FDA approved, I believe, over 20 years ago. So with that, there's a lot at stake. We are working together. We will continue to work together. And with that, I'm going to invite a discussion for the leaders around the table, and I'll start to my left. with the Representative Giaquinta from the great state of Indiana.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. My Democratic colleagues from across America and members of the press corps, you referenced Indiana made headlines last week as a safe haven for a 10-year-old rape victim to receive an abortion. Why? Because our neighboring state of Ohio had a trigger law that prioritized Republicans' unpopular dogma over her personal health and safety. However, our ability to provide life-saving health care to women in Indiana may come to an end soon. Republicans at the State House have signaled a plan to limit abortion access at the end of this month. Hoosiers don't like the government telling them what to do, but that's exactly what Indiana Republicans want. And this will not stand with Indiana House Democrats. We have the first ever majority women caucus in Indiana history, so we understand that there is no equality without bodily autonomy. Access to safe and legal abortion is critical for women to remain economically mobile, independent, and safe. Let's make no mistake, an abortion ban will kill women. Indiana leads the nation in maternal and infant mortality outcomes and severely lacks the infrastructure to support families as it is. We're ready to join you all in the fight to secure the basic freedoms and protections that have been stripped away by the Supreme Court's regressive agenda.
Thank you. Next, I would invite Representative Fentrice Driscoll from Florida as also the incoming House Minority Leader to please share your thoughts on this issue.
Thank you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you.
I am honored to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. I want to thank the Biden-Harris administration for taking action today and for remaining committed to finding additional solutions. I come to Washington today from my home state of Florida, a state that I love, and I am so proud to be serving Floridians as the first Black woman elected to lead the House Democratic Caucus. But I'm here today with a heavy heart for Floridians. Governor DeSantis has already signed an abortion ban into law, a law that provides no exceptions for rape, incest, and life endangerment after 15 weeks. Now his allies are already looking forward to calling a special legislative session dedicated to ensuring total bans on abortion in Florida. And their way has been cleared by the Supreme Court of the United States. As we brace for that onslaught, I am thinking specifically of women of color, women with disabilities, and women who have limited financial means on whom these bans will have a disproportionately harsh impact. I am thinking specifically of the story of the 10-year-old abuse victim from Ohio and of testimony the Florida legislature heard about an 11-year-old girl who was pregnant as a result of rape, but no one knew until after 15 weeks. These are true stories of children who were raped, and both of them would be denied care in Florida today under the laws created by extremist politicians who are sheltering under the activism of the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court and these extremist politicians have already overturned nearly 50 years of constitutional precedent to push their agenda. We have to say out loud what it is that these extremists want. Government-mandated pregnancies, and we have to use every legal, political, and communal tool that we have to fight back. It is so important that the White House and that all of America pay attention to what is happening in Florida. We are a microcosm of our country, and I believe the best indicator of what's to come and what we can expect from Republicans in 2022 and 2024. I'm doing everything I can to help lead Florida's efforts in our fight for freedom and for every Floridian's freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. But it is imperative that Congress act to restore reproductive freedom. America's soul is rooted in freedom, and they may try to take away our freedom, they may try to silence our voices, but the one thing they will never ever do is break our souls. I thank you for the time today, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Thank you. Next, I would like Representative Erin Healy from South Dakota, who is the House Minority Whip. Please share your experience in that beautiful state and what we need to do together.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
We have a lot of titles at this table. It's
so
okay.
used to
Lots of
being in
titles.
committee. Yes, thank you, Madam Vice President. I'm honored to be here today.
Thank you.
South Dakota trigger laws placing strict bans on abortion have been enacted since Roe was overturned, and our governor and Republican legislators are still calling for a special session to strengthen the state's abortion statutes. We have been hearing that legislators may try to restrict physicians in other states from providing an abortion to South Dakotans. Any legislation that requires out-of-state physicians to follow South Dakota statute should be viewed unconstitutional and completely unenforceable. And we've also heard that Republican legislators may try to restrict freedom of traveling across the state for reproductive health care. This is also unenforceable, and just like there's no way to prevent a cancer patient from leaving the state to get a second opinion on chemo options in a neighboring state. South Dakotans should have the freedom to travel anywhere they want in this country, no questions asked. Enforcing some kind of state border laws about who gets to leave and who doesn't paints a very grim future for America. Our trigger laws threaten physicians who perform abortions with a Class 6 felony. Physicians will leave our state because they will be unable to give proper care to their patients, or they will be too afraid to give the care that is needed. Doctors will now have to find a way to uphold the Hippocratic Oath within the confines of these laws, and their patient will ultimately pay the price. How close to death does someone need to be before a doctor can intervene? Abortion is often an issue talked about in numbers and statistics, and each person seeking an abortion has a story and a life. And South Dakotans who need access to abortion are real people. All people who need access to abortion are real people. Those lives and stories are what we need to keep in mind today as we are making laws. And that is what I'll continue to do today, and as we discuss abortion policies in our nation and for South Dakota and these other states that are with us today. So thank you, Madam Vice President, for having us here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be with you. Senator Patty Pansing Brooks, who's a Nebraska State Senator. Welcome, and I'd love to hear from you too.
Thank you very much. I'm deeply honored to be asked by Vice President Harris to come for this extraordinary opportunity to speak with you today as a Nebraska State Senator and not as a candidate for Congress. Thank you, Vice President Harris, for bringing together state leaders who are fighting to protect privacy and reproductive rights across this great nation. I am also grateful to President Biden for his executive order today that he issued protecting Americans' right to privacy and reproductive rights. The recent Supreme Court opinion to overturn Roe v. Wade has spread fear, sadness, and rage among women and their loved ones in this precious country. My daughter now does not have the same rights that I have had most of my life. And the government does not deserve a seat at my daughter's or any of our daughters' exam table. The scope of the opinion and the concurring opinion go well beyond historic abortion rights. The opinion is undermining women's rights and access to birth control, in vitro fertilization, rights to same-sex intimacy and marriage, among many other rights. Women are being sent back to the dark ages without a say in what in the world happens to them in their most private matters in their lives. However, there is always hope for the women in our nation. As President Biden said today, we must vote. We must get out and vote. Protecting reproductive rights and bodily autonomy has been an important part of my life and that of my family. I was a member of the Planned Parenthood board in Lincoln in the 1990s, as well as an outspoken advocate for reproductive health throughout my time as a community leader and volunteer. As a state senator, I have never stopped fighting for reproductive rights of women in Nebraska. I worked to continue funding for Planned Parenthood in our state so they can support women who are seeking multiple reproductive health care rights. Most importantly, I have fought to protect abortion access across Nebraska. Multiple bills seeking to limit or ban abortions have been brought to the Nebraska unicameral, which I've consistently opposed. In January this year, The most draconian bill was brought to the floor with hopes that when and if Roe v. Wade would be overturned, immediately it would make abortion illegal in Nebraska with absolutely no exceptions. Due to our efforts, the trigger bill was defeated and abortion is still legal across Nebraska. As we look forward and ahead to a potential session, I'm not looking forward to it, as we look ahead to a special session for the Nebraska unicameral, the fight to protect reproductive rights will continue with passion and determination. We all know that banning abortions does not prevent them. It only makes them unsafe and dangerous. With the Dobbs decision, a state has the power to force a woman to carry to term at any point, always. That authority is intolerable in our democracy. I will not put the lives of Nebraskans at risk, and I will continue to fight for all women's reproductive rights. Again, thank you so much, Vice President Harris, for this amazing honor to discuss the importance of reproductive health care and bodily autonomy for women across our nation. I will vigorously continue to stand for all women to protect their rights as free and equal citizens under the law.
Senator Pansing Brooks, thank you for your long-standing leadership on this issue and many others. Thank you. And finally, Senator Diane Sands from the great state of Montana.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation. You know, I've been an activist on this issue for safe and legal abortion since before the Roe versus Wade decision. In the late 1960s, I'm one of the people who organized a referral service to help women secure safe and legal abortions in the neighboring state of Washington. At that time, to even do that, to talk about it, was a felony under Montana state law. So I'm a co-founder of Montana NARAL, and I've spent my entire legislative career of several decades battling extremist Republican attempts to restrict abortion. Fortunately, in Montana, it currently is still legal in Montana. However, that is really under Montana's progressive 1972 Constitution that contains an express right to privacy in our Bill of Rights. And that was really affirmed in 1999 in what's called the Armstrong decision, which really provided that viability is a fundamental right, or access to abortion before viability is a fundamental right in our state. But now our Attorney General, Republican Attorney General, is asking the court to review that decision and to find it unconstitutional. In addition to that, our new Republican governor is also considering calling a special session in Montana as well. He has said he's proudly pro-life and in discussion with legislative leaders to see if they can protect life further in Montana under the federal Supreme Court decision. These extremist Montana Republicans have been planning an anti-abortion legislation for the next session, as well as, I'm sure, in other states, which targets our Constitution's definition of a person to make sure that it says that you are a person from conception, and therefore to prohibit abortion. In the long game, these forces in Montana are going after the Montana Constitution because they know it is the sole barrier to achieving their goal to making abortion illegal. They have taken the unprecedented role of trying to change the makeup of our Supreme Court, how you become a Supreme Court person, the election of our judges, which has been a nonpartisan measure before that, it is no longer that, and ultimately to rewrite the Constitution itself, if necessary, within the next 2 or 3 years. The effect of this on the abortion providers in our state has been enormous, and I bring that message from them, particularly Planned Parenthood, to you, Madam Vice President. While Montana will continue to provide abortions for people in Montana, and if people want to drive there from our neighboring surrounding states, as they do now frequently, because in many cases we still are the only provider even before the Dobbs decision, Montana Planned Parenthood has decided that it cannot risk lawsuits from our neighboring states to our providers, extradition to stand trial potentially in another state for having provided a legal abortion in our state. And so their request to you is what can be done to try to protect our providers in a state where it is even legal. Right now, I think that's seriously in jeopardy, and I'm sure at the federal level you will consider doing whatever you can to try to provide for that. So there's enormous fear out there, as you know, and a lot of frustration, and I think what you are all doing is wonderful. Thank you for having us here. We really appreciated the President's statement today and the different measures, recognizing the limitations This is not a problem that the federal government can solve. It is a problem created by the extremist Republicans, and the Democrats have stood for 50 years in support of women's rights, and we will continue that fight because we are not going back to the dark ages on any of these issues, and I'm so grateful for all of our colleagues who have continued with that fight. And I really appreciate a chance to have this discussion with you, Madam Vice President. Thank you.
Well, this really does highlight the importance of elections.
Yes, it does.
And who, and for